You might have noticed that music nowadays has become a little stale. Usually an artist or band will fall into one category using the same gimmick over and over again for mass appeal and streams. And this goes for metal, hardcore, and pop punk too. Sure, there are bands that find their own sound and break the mold, but it usually boils down to a riff salad. No dressing. I'm bored. But then we have these guys. You've probably heard one of their songs from Death Note or Chainsaw Man. In Japan, they are pretty much the heavy metal band, but calling them heavy metal is a huge understatement. They combine a wide range of genres like hardcore punk, nu metal, rock, ska, and funk seamlessly throughout their songs to make what I feel is the most creative music ever. Since the early 2000s, Maximum the Hormone has been breaking through mediocrity by simply not giving a fuck about genre. Their music is anything but boring. They don't box themselves into one thing and constantly break expectations. And really, no one else in the world comes close to them sonically, which is why they've become so popular and are loved by their fans. And though they aren't mainstream in the West, they're considered to be one of Japan's cultural icons of this generation. They're high energy, think outside of the box, and make fun music. It's like one moment you're listening to a bouncy J-pop song, then you're headbanging to some ignorant breakdown, back and forth until eventually you're sweating in your car. I'm aware that every artist has their own goal when it comes to making music, whether it be to create a certain vibe, add to an aesthetic, or to simply express themselves. Making music is a great outlet for self-expression. I appreciate lo-fi hip-hop, jungle drum and bass, jazz, hardcore, vaporwave, and all sorts of music that you can categorize with one word. But Maximum the Hormone is a band that you just cannot categorize with one word. I mean, people do try. Like crazy, insane, chaotic. If you're tired of being bored in like an array of different music genres, then give them a shot. I've been a fan of them since 2008, and they've set the bar so high for me that it's hard to enjoy other bands. Let me tell you what makes their music so great and why they kick your favorite band's ass. Disclaimer, I'm biased! If you're new to Maximum the Hormone, you can learn more about them in this video that I made. On the surface, they're your simple 4-piece rock band. Guitar, drums, bass, and vocals. If you couldn't tell already, they're Japanese. Expect Japanese music to have different chord progressions and a different feeling to them compared to music from the West. Marty Friedman from Megadeth, who's lived in Japan for decades, has some video explaining these too, but just know that Japanese music tends to sound nostalgic, melancholic, and uplifting all at once. They make anything that puts you in a good mood or just makes you want to break stuff. It's just one of those days. Typically in metal and hardcore music, you'd use the minor scale, you know, for that heaviness, darkness, and aggression. Ryo, their guitarist and primary songwriter, uses the minor pentatonic scale to write many of their riffs. He makes bouncy riffs that are not overly complicated and are easy to catch on to. Riffs for cavemen like me! Ue, their bass player, doesn't just play the riffs on one string either. He adds slapping and techniques from funk that add a whole new dynamic to their sound. In Japanese music, bass lines are more pronounced and the role of bass plays a bigger part than just rounding out the sound. You might think that slap bass and metal don't go together. Instead of it being corny, I think it's so badass. Typically in pop and ska music, you'd use the major scale for, you know, that positivity and uplifting feeling. Wait, here's where they start to differ from the rest. In most of their songs, they contrast aggression with uplifting and poppy chord progressions. Here are some examples. I'd call these your typical ska punk chord progressions. You've probably heard them before, but they aren't typically used in Western pop music. They're more like 1-5-6-4. At least that's the most popular one. But you can easily sing over these chords and create a bunch of unique melodies from them. Maximum the Hormone isn't afraid to reuse these chords and put new melodies on top. Upon further inspection, you might notice that they all have microphones, which brings me to... Their vocals are both melodic and rhythmic, percussive even. They almost act as additional instruments. You can find gang vocals in a lot of hardcore punk, or just punk music in general, where multiple people are singing or repeating a certain phrase. Mostly yelling, actually. This invites you, the listener, to sing along as well. This is another thing that makes them stand out from different metal bands, where in Maximum the Hormone, vocals are used to add to the overall sound rather than to just convey a message or singing for the sake of having a singer. They've got a rather holistic approach to music. This gives variety and space for each song to breathe, and we're not overwhelmed by just one voice the entire time. And each member's vocals are intertwined into almost every one of their songs. They all have clean and harsh vocals to varying degrees. They all harmonize with each other too. They do what some people call vocal tag teaming that you hear a lot in rap and hip hop. Think of the Beastie Boys, for example. All four of them can be heard passing vocals around, and it really emphasized the message of the song to hear it from not just one person, but from 4 different people. Even if you don't speak Japanese, and if you do, their lyrics are dumb anyways. In a nutshell, each segment, verse, chorus, bridge, or whatever, would be a different genre. It's not done in a way that would like piss you off or anything, for the most part. Even when I was young, I never really thought, oh, what the fuck happened to this song? More like, I can't believe they took it in that direction. Take Bikini Sports Punchin', for example. It starts off all metal, aggressive, only to turn into a disco song by the time you get to the chorus. Another example would be their song Alien. The first half of the song is chaotic and fast, then it turns into a pop rock ballad with no warning. They don't necessarily mess with tempo, but they mess with time signatures. Their drummer now would be playing full time, or double time, or half time, and she'd switch it up depending on where the energy of the song is going. So here's your typical song structure for popular music. Maximum the Hormone plays around with that formula but use many others, and they always add their own twist to it. They'd have a melody and play it regularly, whether it be a rock riff, pop, ska, or a nu metal riff. Then they'd switch up the genre or go double time or half time while maintaining that same melody. I said riff salad earlier, and that pretty much means slapping together unconnected riffs that just sound cool and calling it a song. If you listen to hardcore metal, you've probably heard of that before. However, in my opinion, what makes a good song is actually building on those riffs and ideas. I mean, yeah, Maximum the Hormone slaps some outlandish bullshit together, but they do expand on those ideas. Riffs and stuff would come back and reintroduce themselves, usually with some sort of twist or played in a different time signature. Take Zetspo Billy, for example. The main riff and breakdown have similarities, and you can tell that the breakdown is built on the main riff. Many bands and artists that survive for more than a few years tend to have different eras attached to them, where their music evolves over time. Maximum the Hormone has their own eras too, but I don't ever think they strayed too far from what made them great in the first place. Each release that they have has their own stamp, even dating back to their earliest music. They've always had their identity and do all the things that I talked about, and it's what brought them worldwide success. And isn't that inspiring? To know who you are at your core and to be able to create something that resonates with people regardless of language barriers or where you are in the world? Everyone has their own unique tastes, interests, and experiences, so why are we boxing ourselves in? Why does everything have to be the same? Money. So what makes Maximum the Hormone so great? Editing Christian here. My explanation was kinda whack, so I'm gonna put it this way instead. Their canvas is hardcore punk. They've got the energy and the attitude of a hardcore punk band, but paint the picture with different techniques and different musical influences. And what you get in the final product is just a rainbow of music. Almost every song by them has a twist, and their whole discography is worth revisiting time and time again. It really feels like that they make music for the enjoyment of their fans. Maximum the Hormone loves their fans, and they interact with them all the time in person and online. Each member shines in their own ways. You can clearly hear each instrument, each voice, and no one member shines over the others. Okay, maybe Rio, but he doesn't hog the spotlight or anything. Maximum the Hormone really is a collective effort. So what do you think? What's your favorite thing about this band? Let me know in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe! And don't forget to check out this video to learn more about their history.